it's Lisa. Something I've been doing almost every year for the last several years is to create a layout at the beginning of the year to wrap up what happened in the past year and to look at my goals and objectives for the new year. I say almost every year because for some reason I didn't do this last year. I did the goals and objectives and resolutions, but I never created the page. I was just kind of getting back into scrapbooking after a difficult year, and I didn't do that one. But this year I decided to, since I didn't do one last year, to do 2 pages. I have 2 photos of me. I couldn't quite decide between them, and a lot of information to capture and a lot of pretty paper, so I thought we'll just do a double page layout. It's been a while since I did one of those too. So let's get started on this new page for the new year. Well, I took a bunch of selfies, as I always do whenever I'm doing this year-end photo, and these were the 2 best ones, or what I thought were the best ones. My expression on this one kind of looks apprehensive, deer in the headlights, I don't know, but I kind of liked the idea of my hands on my hips, you know, in this sort of superwoman kind of pose. And then this was just the best picture of the group. So I couldn't really decide between these 2, so I'm going to use both of them. I'm going to do one on each of these 2 pages. I usually try to cram all this stuff on 1-page layout, and I do pockets and things, and I can make it work, but I had a lot of information that I had sort of gathered from the past year that I wanted to capture, and so I need a little bit more space, and I've got some pretty papers. This is the Free Spirit collection. I think this was gifted to me. I've had it for quite some time. It's really pretty beautiful colors for me, some of my favorite colors here because I just love green. And I'm going to combine it with, I'm going to do some watercolors. I've gotten out a little bit of chipboard. I had to hunt up some chipboard that had enough 2s in it, so I could do 2022 and 20023. That's a lot of 2s. But there's a lot in these letters that you can paint, and these are great for doing with watercolors. And since I'm wanting to do a lot of stuff with that, and I have them staying here on my table pretty much all the time. I just sort of pushed to the side right now. I will definitely add some color to these, and we'll use those for the letters. I've even got some other things with watercolors. I think I'm going to use my silhouette and cut some stuff. And I could have cut the numbers, but since I found those and I'm wanting to work through my chipboard, that seems like a good idea. This is some old basic gray chipboard. I couldn't tell you how old this stuff is. But these are great letter sets, but they have a lot of letters, but they don't come with any numbers. But the color went, and I haven't decided what titles I'm going to use, but whatever I use, it's going to come, I think, out of these letters. So I have that much picked out. I'll probably add quite a bit of other embellishment to the page. By spreading it out over 2 pages, I have a lot of room. I just figured I'd get the basics down and then work on that. Now, the biggest challenge I have at the moment, I'm going to set this right-hand page aside for a second. This is going to be mostly 2022, 2023. Okay. Now, I've done a lot of different things over the years with these. I've done pockets, I've done little booklets. I think it would be interesting sometime for me to get out all those different pages that I've done and do a video and show all the different ways that I've found to hide this journaling and to keep a lot of journaling in place. So maybe we'll do that one day. But for now, what I would like to do here is I have created a little booklet of information that I have from the past year. And I want to have that to where I can access it fairly easily. And I think I'll make it to where, you know, there's like a cover, and the cover opens up, and then I can read that when I pull it out of the album. But this paper here, I love the paper, and I really wanted to use it. And if I put this on top, I'm going to be covering up a lot of the paper. So what I thought I would do is actually cut out some of the paper and then make it part of the booklet, the top of the booklet as well. So there'll be a kind of a frame around it, and then this color kind of sitting on the top also, and it'll be give me a great place to add some additional embellishments. I might put the title here. I don't know. I haven't entirely decided, but I'm going to get that part of it done first. I do need to be sure I know which side my photo is going to go on. So let's get the other one back here for a second. This one definitely, my photo needs to go on the right. I'm looking this way. You always want to try to look towards the middle of the page, or have your subjects looking towards the middle of the page. This one, I kind of, for some reason I thought I needed to be on this side, but actually I think I would look better on that side. That's more balanced to do it that way. So that answers that question. So I'm really going to be cutting out this section, and I definitely want to preserve, this is some of the prettiest part of the paper. I definitely want to preserve some of that. So let me do some measuring and get my craft knife here and start cutting. So what I've done is I measured the paper that I was going to be, my little booklet, and I've cut two pieces, one a little bit larger and then one larger still that'll go over the part that I'm cutting out of the background. And as I started moving things around, I realized that this would actually look good in the very middle of the page. I don't do that very often, but I've got enough room now with the two-page spread to put everything. So I think I'll just put that one right in the middle. And I'm going to need to cut out, I think it was a 6" by 9" piece. So since it's in the middle, I'll just cut 3 inches over on each side and 1.5 inches up on the top. And I'm marking that so I can cut it out with the craft knife. And this doesn't have to be a super exact cut. I'm just trying to preserve some of that paper in the middle. This opening is all going to get covered up with that yellow cardstock. And I'll trim down this piece that I'm taking out and figure out what to do with it. Do I want to put it on the top of the booklet or use the green piece that I've already cut? That's what I'm figuring out at this point. I did decide that the top of the booklet piece needed to be scored so that it would cover, and I decided to use the green, and I'm going to put some adhesive across that, and then that creates a cover that I can just flip up and look at the pages underneath whenever I want to. Now this will end up being in a page protector, but that's okay because this is the kind of personal stuff that I don't want people just to see as they flip through my album, so I can pull it out of the page protector if I want to review 2022. Now I'm getting things lined up so that I can glue that yellow cardstock on over the hole, and nobody knows that there is a big hole in the back of that paper. What's going to end up with that other paper is I think I'm going to use it on the other page. That will create some continuation between the two pages to have some paper repeated. And I need a pocket over there anyway for the goals, objectives, and resolutions for 2023. That's not nearly as lengthy a material, it's just one little sheet per item. But that's something I do refer to. So putting in a pocket that I can lift out from the top of the page protector is handy. This information's on my computer, so I can look at it there anytime, but once in a while I just pull it out from the album. It's easier than pulling it up from the computer just to see what I had down. And I do think it would look nice to trim out the top of that pocket and just give it a little curve to it. I think that makes for a nice finish. These are my Creative Memories circle and oval cutters, still my favorite things, over 20 years old. They have a prominent place in my craft room. Now, something else I wanted to do to have something fun on the page is I've tested out cutting watercolors on the silhouette. And this paper is one where it was just a practice sheet that I was doing some, like practicing some petals or something. And so I just added a whole bunch more color to it to match the background. And I just have nice colorful piece of paper that I can cut out some designs to go on the 2 pages of my layout. Now I've glued down my pocket, and I reprinted and cut those items to go in the pocket to make them fit better and to show up better with the titles there. And I've taken this and cut out of the silhouette. I have to do that off camera. The silhouette's not even in my craft room anymore, or not set up in here. But I've cut some designs. One pass works with the thinner watercolor papers. I've found if I'm using Arches paper or some of the really nice paper, you have to go do it 2 passes to get a good clean cut. And this one almost could have used 2 passes. There's enough detail here. But these, I've got the colors to match so well that this is going to be kind of a tone-on-tone thing. It'll be a subtle embellishment, but I do think it adds something to have that additional element in a similar color. And it was fun to just add some watercolors to paper, not really trying to paint anything, just having some fun color with it. And I may trim the side of that larger piece, or I may have it lay over the booklet, I don't know. Now these white chipboard pieces, those came with the Free Spirit collection. Also that came with it is this paper that has several words on it that I may cut out and use some of those. For my letters, now that we're working with watercolors, these letters, these were designed to be misted. I don't have mists anymore. I got rid of all my mists, and I needed the space, so I'm using the watercolors. They take up a lot less room, they work just as well, and they're far less messy. So I can add some color. It does not have to be fancy professional watercolors. You can use an inexpensive watercolor set to paint canvas, if you have any canvas elements. These happen to be canvas letters, but a little bit later on you'll see I have some canvas butterflies and other cutouts that were popular some years ago. Everything in my stash is from some years ago. I have not, other than some watercolor supplies and a few things from Stampin' Up, I have not bought new materials in years now. And I'm just really trying to work through my stash. All right, so I want to move these around so they don't stick and let those dry good, and then they can be put on the paper. I was making sure there for a minute that they matched and seeing if I want to add any additional color to them. They will dry a tad lighter. Right. Those are dried and ready to go on the page. And I have to figure out my words. I've decided on this page being plans, 2023 plans. And 2022 will be review. So since I had pretty large letters, I needed just a single word for these. And I'll keep it a little simpler since I'm going to have quite a lot of embellishments. I also thought it would be neat to stitch down the sides of these pockets, but I put a lot of adhesive there, and I didn't really want to do that on my sewing machine, and I'm so glad I didn't. I'm using my little punching mat, and that little awl is a sewing tool actually, but I'm using a tool there from Stampin' Up, and so I hand sewed this with embroidery floss. I ended up with some adhesive on my needle, so I'm really glad I didn't do this on my sewing machine. I've sewn a lot of paper, but you just have to keep the adhesive away from it. But this turned out to be an easy way to do it. I had the machine, I'd thread in there for something else, so this was just a quick way to get some stitching on this page and also on the side of the booklet on the other page. It makes a nice finish. And the adhesive for the bottom of this page actually goes across midway so that the goals, objectives, and resolutions stick out at the top. You kind of have to figure out your position for your pocket, either where the bottom of the pocket is or the bottom of the adhesive is going. All right, so I have the stitching down there. I've glued down the some of the elements, the paper elements, and it's time to do my favorite part of a page like this, all the embellishments, because most of my pages I don't have this much room or this much flexibility in using just kind of all fun embellishments, whatever tickles my fancy. It doesn't have to be something that really relates to the theme. So I've got ribbons, I've got brads, sequins, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to use all of it, but I got to figure out what to do. One of the first things I want is something underneath that die cut piece that I haven't glued down that watercolor die cut that goes across between the photo and the pocket and sort of bridges those. I'd like to put some washi tape behind it. It needs kind of a backing to it. It needs something to sort of ground it. So let's take some washies and put across there. I could have done this with cardstock or designer paper as well. One thing I'm learning about washi tape is some of it goes bad. And if you have a lot of washi tape, you want to use it up or check it. I keep some of mine out for household stuff. I mean, I've used it for all kinds of things around the house. And I get cards in the mail that have it on there. I'm a little reluctant to do that because I'm always afraid that it won't stick and it'll get caught up in the post office's machines or something. I guess that doesn't happen, but it just worries me. But I do use it for a lot of other things. And so that's one of the ways I'm trying to use some of my washi tape, and still some on layouts. Now that yellow trim and the blue trim, both of those are from Stampin' Up, and that yellow trim I have had, that's more than 10 years old, I'm sure. I love that stuff. That little mini pom-pom trim is just one of my favorite things. I have it in like 3 other colors. The yellow's been real popular. In fact, I think a friend gave me some of hers because I believe I ran out. I think this is hers that she gave me a long time ago. But at any rate, I'm going to use some more of that on my layout after I glue down this die cut piece. And this is one of the things that links those 2 elements, and it also links the pages together since there's some of the same die cut paper on the other page as well. A few words cut out of one of the designer papers, and then we'll add a little bit of trim there, and I'll glue that down with the Tombow adhesive as well. I haven't decided on this blue trim. There's several places I could put it if I decide to use it. Most of the time I want my embellishments and everything to really support the story, but on a page like this, there's not really a story. There may be a theme to it, but it's really just about making it fun and pretty and something that I like in the moment. I did not pick out this paper before I picked out the shirt to wear for my selfie. When I took the pictures, I happened to have this perfect paper that went with it. But it's my color, so it's no wonder, really, that I would have kept this in my stash all this time. Now, I do have a small work area here these days, and one of these days I'm going to do a room tour video, and you'll see why I don't have as much room. So I'm having to shuffle some things about to figure out which brads, and if I'm going to use any of the flare. I decided not to use the flare. It just didn't match. But I have this large brad. This was my mind's eye stuff. And that's going to work in that spot really well. I've also got to decide between sequins and some other elements that I have that are some little, I don't know what those things are called, crystals, that's what they says they're called, but those, one or the other of those. I lean toward the crystals because I think they're prettier. And I still have these wood veneer pieces. My favorite embellishment ever is wood veneer. So I want to use some of these in the groupings, and probably do about 3 groupings of these going across the page. And here are the butterflies, and I'm going to paint those with watercolors. I do that separately. I don't show that on the screen because it's very similar to doing the letters. I did decide to work some of that blue trim in. I think the color originally was the Baja Breeze color that Stampin' Up! Used to have. And I'm adding some brads in random spots across that border since it had holes punched in it already. My butterflies are dry, or they're not really dry. When I put them on there, they were still half wet, and I still got some paint on my hands, but I was kind of ready to be done with this page. I've been working on it for a couple of days. in the end, I decided not to do the crystals because they were just too large. So I went with the sequins. They're there. They're a little hard to see on the screen. You can see a few of them there on the screen. But I felt like they were just a better subtle touch. But you can see my groupings and how I now have a booklet that I can easily access the data or the information that's in there. And it ties to the other page with a linked pocket in the same paper. And then again, some more embellishment groupings. So if you look at the pages individually, you can sort of look diagonally across each page, or they work together by having elements that connect them. So thank you for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you're not a subscriber, if you'll go ahead and subscribe, and we'll be doing more scrapbooking and other crafting videos in 2023. Happy New Year.